Back on a new day, with the opening of the Nasdaq stock market, Sony's stock price really recovered rapidly. But don't think about it if you want to return to the original state. After all, half of the copyright was taken away by my buckle, although Sony still enjoys the rights. But after all, this time is different from the past. What's more, in addition to half of the copyright, my buckle itself is also a cash cow. His own music copyright has always been in his own hands, which was previously only handed over to Sony to operate, and now he is gone, of course, taking it with him. Therefore, although Sony's stock price has rebounded, its market value is still more than $2 billion, which can be regarded as a heavy loss. Tom Motorola was taken to the back of the pot and kicked out of Sony, and with his current notoriety status, no company will accept him anytime soon. Tom Motorola's only way out is to start his own company, but he doesn't have the confidence and resources to do anything. Even if he has a bad reputation, even if he has money, it is still difficult to do anything. Martin Basher, that bastard, doesn't know where to hide and still doesn't dare to show his face in public. Miku has already launched a criminal case against him, and the BBC will certainly not protect him for the sake of public image and public opinion. As a journalist, his career is completely over, and the future is bound to be the end of the dragon field. Larry Feldman and Mathis ended slightly better, and in exchange for throwing dirty water on Sony, McBolt won't file a lawsuit against them. However, the careers of the two are still over. The revocation of the license is certain, and it is a great luck not to be in prison. They will most likely find a place to live without knowing themselves, or emigrate abroad. Anyway, they will find a place with few fans. Janet Avizo has announced the withdrawal of the lawsuit and issued a public apology, admitting her mistake and hoping for forgiveness. It's just a stupid woman, and my buckle doesn't bother to meet her in general, which will damage her image. Anyway, the true face of the Avizo family has been exposed, and they can't escape the fate of being harassed and targeted. Her son will inevitably suffer from school violence, and the future of her relatives who have committed perjury is bleak. There is also a garbage man ruffian Eminem. My buckle has issued a statement asking him to publicly apologize and remove the album. Aftermath. The record company signed by Eminem has apologized, and founder Andre Young said that he would communicate with distributors as soon as possible to remove all CDs or other merchandise containing "Just Lost It." There is no doubt that this decision will cost the record company hundreds of millions of dollars, but failure to do so will face the wrath of fans. Look at Sony. Can you compare to Sony with a small label? As for the ruffian Eminem himself, he still didn't make any response, just left in the face of the reporter's interview. After all, this guy is a notoriously stubborn donkey, and when Bush Jr. criticizes him, he scolds Bush Jr. On Facebook, he would have had more than 4 million followers, especially after Facebook started the promotion of major secondary schools. Since the swearing style is very popular among teenagers, the ruffian Eminem's fans are very fast. He himself is a very active personality and completely uses Facebook as a front for expressing opinions and publicity. In this ranking event held by Facebook, the number of followers has reached the top 10, and he is currently ranked 9th. As a result, due to a bad attitude, he lost more than 100,000 fans overnight. There are also a large number of users who ran to his homepage to leave messages and abuse, but they couldn't delete it, and finally the Eminem team fortunately closed the comments. And seeing that he didn't respond, he was trying to escape. Eric simply gave the order and directly banned the account of the ruffian Eminem. You don't want to speak, right? Then never say it. I'll seal you an account in the future, as long as it's in Loud Sue's territory. Don't want to put one. Give him a few more days, and if he still pretends to be deaf and dumb, then my co will sue him. Los Angeles, MGM Building, Eric's office. Billy, I've called you back this time to arrange a new mission. I'm going to make a music variety show, And now I need you to go all over the country to find and collect some singers to compete. Hearing this, Billy was a little puzzled. Shouldn't we go collect it? Shouldn't it be an announcement and wait for the contestants to sign up for screening? The way you said is suitable for general variety shows, but it is not suitable for me. Don't worry about the specifics. Do it first. I'll give you 2 months. Contestants can come from all walks of life, even if they have some fame in the circle or have debuted but have always been tepid. Go to major bars and nightclubs. There is no shortage of potential singers in these places, and I only have one criterion, that is, excellent singing skills. It's better if they have creative ability. Tell them that as long as they participate, they will hope to sign a contract and get the resources to become real singers. Do you sign MGM? But we don't seem to have a music department. Billy was puzzled. Michael Jackson and I are going to set up a record label soon, and when it's set up, you'll understand. Go ahead and tell Xing to call Judy and Bordeaux over. Okay, boss. Soon, Judy came to the office first. Boss, what's the matter with me? Eric looked at her. Judy, you've been at MGM for almost a year, and your work performance is excellent, and your eye for picking scripts is sharp enough. So I've decided to give you a new position as an assistant head of production, and of course the script side will continue to be there. Pick up an extra burden. It might be a little tiring, you think about it. Unexpectedly, Judy nodded in agreement without thinking about it. No problem, I have a lot of energy, and I also feel that I need to go to more positions to learn and experience. You mean you want more? Judy shrugged. Why not? More comprehensive, interesting words. You also want to take on a company like Warren? Judy hesitated for a moment. This may be a little early. Give me some more time, or like Pema Hardy, give me an experienced executive. Eric chuckled, said, You are always like this. Among the few of us, you have always been the most confident. That's fine. It's still a 1-year deadline, and if your work is still good after a year, there will be a branch waiting for you to preside. Really? Judy's face was instantly delighted. You can question everything else, but you can't question the boss's decision. After Judy left joyfully and energetically, Bordeaux, another close friend, walked in. He's been in marketing for the year, but the only success has been the collaboration with Hasbro, and Eric thinks he's probably not a good fit for the role. Bordeaux also seemed to realize what was going to happen next, and took the initiative to say, I'm sorry, Eric, I didn't do a good job enough during this time and let you down. Eric stood up and walked up to him, patted him on the shoulder and comforted, It's nothing. People always have to slowly find their best position. It was my decision to put you in the marketing department in the first place, so now I'm going to give you a different position. I'm okay with that. You can go wherever you want. I think you taught yourself about accounting when you were in college. Yes, I've been interested in this for a while, but I didn't get a certificate. That's not important. I'm going to let you go to finance. I don't need to say much about what this department means. Do a good job. Don't worry, I will. Fast forward to August 7th, and Get Out has received rave reviews, and the Black community's propaganda strategy is also very correct. Although the Black buddies generally have a low level of education, the movie actually expresses the theme of racial discrimination very plainly, and most people can understand it. Even the gangsters, the kind who didn't graduate from elementary school, would be very excited to see that it was a Black man who was the protagonist and won in the end, and killed the white family of the heroine. The first audience to walk into the cinema spontaneously became tap water and began to promote it to their friends and family. Naturally, the second and third batches were introduced, and the data of MGM's investigators showed that the attendance rate in the back showed a state of continuous climbing. Some movie theaters for Blacks can reach a terrifying 90% attendance, and many Black buddies who have watched it once will pull their friends to watch it again. Coupled with the fact that Pirates of the Caribbean is already in its 4th week, the firepower is greatly reduced. Although Tobey Maguire's new work, Pentium Age, has an investment of $90 million US, the plot of the movie is really not good. It's 2003 now. Who would want to watch a horse racing story from the 30s of the last century, let alone the fact that sports themes are already unpopular, or the unpopular among the unpopular ones like horse racing? So the media still has some hype, but the audience doesn't buy it, and most of them give bad reviews. That is, in the first week, with the help of Tobey Maguire's popularity, he received more than $40 million box office, and then began to weaken. As it turns out, without Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire is not easy to use. Of the three films with the heaviest percentage of the cinemas right now, Pirates of the Caribbean earned $31 million at the box office this week, in line with the expectations of such blockbusters. Pentium Age was cut in half, less than $21 million, and the end of the loss was already doomed. Get Out of Desperate Town was in the right place at the right time, and it directly hit the box office of $51 million in the first week, which can be said to have shocked everyone's attention. Even Eric was surprised when he got his report card, which was the third highest grossing film in his first week at MGM. The first is 007 Die Another Day, and the second is Red Dragon. But what is the configuration of the people? They are all series of movies, and they have a fixed fanbase. What is the configuration of Escape from Desperate Town? The total cost of production and publicity is only $15 million US. And the success of the movie has made Winziren, Kala Savini, and Anthony Mackie all gain a lot. 2 movies have been sold in half a year, and Winziren has become the most high-profile new star director in Hollywood, and all kinds of praise are endless. His prestige directly surpassed Wang Ying, and he has the momentum to win the throne of the first Chinese director in Hollywood. Colorado Savini has also greatly expanded her audience base, and many people know that she has been nominated for an Oscar. Anthony Mackie, as a newcomer who has just moved from the drama industry to Hollywood, was a big hit in his first movie, and he was so happy that he couldn't do it. His agent had called Charlie Cooper several times to invite his dad to the resort. The three were also invited to appear on Saturday Night Live, The Ellen Show, and other programs to promote, which can be described as a moment of limelight. Among them, Eric has also been mentioned several times, because the screenwriter's signature is him and Ravornal, and he is still in front of Ravornal. It's just that although he has been cued several times, the screenwriter doesn't have to show up, and the audience is not interested. So not many people really know about him, and they can't even connect him with the scandals that have been spread before, and Eric is happy to do so. In the evening, Eric drove to the airport. After waiting for a while, Sergei Hasenfeld walked out of the departure hall and got into the car. He was obviously very serious today. Not only did he do his hairstyle, he sprayed a light men's perfume on his body and even painted a light makeup on his face. Made this middle-aged man who is nearly 40 years old look a lot younger. Eric, why are you here in person? Just send someone to pick me up. Hee, we are such good friends. Of course I came in person. It seems that you are well prepared. Go straight to the party. Sergei nodded and shook the delicate small bag in his hand. The gift is here. Let's go. The car drove toward Beverly Hills. Sergei, this opportunity is something I have asked for with great difficulty. You have to cherish it. Sergei looked at Eric gratefully. What you have done is in my heart, and I will definitely repay you. TSK, I feel a little excited. It's been a long time since my heart is beating so fast. By the time the two arrived at Villa Theron, there were already quite a few people on the scene, and the party had already begun. But it doesn't matter. The big guys are going to make the finale. Except for Theron's family, the rest are basically actors and stars, and many of the people I saw at Nico last time have appeared here again. When Eric arrived, someone immediately informed Theron of the news, and soon she walked through the crowd, and the smile on her face made her look beautiful. Before Theron could speak, Eric took her hand and kissed her gently. Then he glanced at Stuart Townworth, who was watching this scene not far away, and sure enough, the kid's expression shook unnaturally. "Humph. I'm going to show you, kid." Then with a slight pull of his hand, the two had already finished hugging. However, it only lasted for a few seconds, and it seemed a little intimate, but it made people can't find fault with it, which is normal friend etiquette. "Happy birthday, Theron." "Happy birthday, beautiful lady." Sending their blessings, Eric and Sergei handed the gift to Theron. She looked at Sergei and said, "Eric, this is what you told me." "That's right. Has Kate Winslet arrived?" Theron looked to the side. "Isn't it right there, Mr. Sergei? If you want me to introduce you, you should get to know it yourself." "Theron, you're doing it to the end. You're helping him." "Okay, then follow me." Sergei poked and gave a thumbs up. "Good brother." Eric looked at Stuart Townsend and walked towards the other party. Beverly Hills, Theron's birthday party. Eric walked towards Stuart Townsend, of course, ostensibly not targeting him, but the other people around him. At this time, Stuart Townsend was chatting with Tobey Maguire and a few people Eric didn't know. "Hey, Toby, see you again." Hearing someone call his name, Spider-Man, who has not yet evolved into a bully, looks back. Seeing that it was Eric, he immediately had a smile on his face and took the initiative to walk over with open arms. "Haha, Eric, you're here to party. I'm lucky to see you here." The two are actually not very acquainted. That is, they have met a few times, chatted at various ceremonial parties, and have relatively little private contact. Seeing that Tobey Maguire wanted to pull a relationship, Eric also gave him this face and hugged him gently. "OMG. No one told me that you would be there." Eric smiled slightly. "Theron and I are good friends, and she just finished making a movie that MGM invested in." "Is it directed by you?" "No, but I've been a guest director for a few days, so we have a good relationship. She's a smart and beautiful woman, and this movie will definitely help her win the award." "Yes, Charlize's charm is well known, but first of all, I want to congratulate you. Get Out was a box office hit. I went to the cinema to see it. It was tense and exciting. The plot is still very deep. Quite an excellent work. The Pentium age is also great, and the story is very inspirational and uplifting." Tobey Maguire waved his hand. "Don't comfort me, big boss. I know very well the current situation that the audience doesn't like this type of movie at all. With Pirates of the Caribbean and Get Out, the end of Defeat is already doomed. I was hoping to make it my own transformation, because I couldn't make the audience think that I was only going to play Spider-Man, but now it seems that I still need to find new opportunities." Eric patted him on the shoulder and comforted, "Don't be discouraged. If there is a suitable opportunity, MGM Movies will reach out to you." "Really? You're a big boss. You can't lie to me as a little actor." "Hey, Toby, you're having such a good chat. Won't you tell us about it?" Beside him, a man who looked to be in his 20s said, in fact, of course they knew Eric's identity in their hearts. "How can I usually meet this kind of big guy? But now that I have met him, of course, I want to have a relationship like Maguire. If you are lucky, you may become a queen actor for 10,000 years. Just like Spielberg and Tom Hanks, isn't the opportunity to soar?" Tobey Maguire walked over with Eric. Before he could start the introduction, Eric pointed to Stuart Townsend and said, "Bring me a glass of red wine." Tobey Maguire hurriedly held his fingers. "Eric, he is Stuart Townsend, Charlize's boyfriend, not a waiter." Eric pretended to look the other person up and down and said in a strange tone, "Yes, you've got a pretty good girlfriend." Few people present who did not know the fact that they were strong women and weak men. What Eric said sounded fine and seemed to be a compliment. But it always gives people a sense of Ian Leon's weirdness, and Stuart Townsend couldn't help but smile awkwardly. Several people took the initiative to shake hands with Eric one by one, and when it was the turn of Stuart Townsend at the end, someone happened to pass by with a plate. Eric took a glass of red wine from it and raised the latter's hand awkwardly in midair. "It's not polite to take it back. but it's MGM at the helm on the other side, so it's not the same as not giving the other party a face. Stuart Townsend could only wait, somewhat embarrassed. Eric took a sip of his glass and pretended to react to look at the other party. "I'm sorry, Stuart. I almost forgot about you." Townsend barely managed to squeeze out a smile. "Nice to meet you, Mr. Cooper." "I'm glad to meet you too, so introduce yourself and let me see what you all have to offer. Maybe I have the right role for you." "Of course. Toby doesn't need it. I wouldn't dare to look for you if it's not the actor." Maguire immediately shook his head again and again. "Eric, as long as it's your invitation, it doesn't matter if it's a supporting role. I completely obey your orders." Ha 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 ha. On the other side, several young actors suddenly came to their senses. Today's party is not too appropriate. Pie is going to fall from the sky. "Mr. Cooper, I'm Sean West. I starred in the ABC TV series Continuing the Frontier, participated in Lovelorn Big Difference as a supporting role the year before last, and played the leading role in Memories of First Love last year." Eric nodded. "Yes. Memories of First Love, I know. A great pure love movie, and it seems to have made a lot of money at the box office." Sean West grinned. "It's not comparable to your films, but it's also made some money, and I'd love to be part of MGM's work." "Well, you have great looks. I see potential in you, and it makes me think about if there is a suitable role." "Thank you. Please contact me if there is." After Sean West introduced himself, others began to brag about it. Regardless of whether it is true or not, Eric gave a good review and praised each other greatly. By the time it came time for Stuart Townward, he certainly wanted to get a chance. The entertainment industry is like this. A role and a movie can change an actor's life, and he needs a good role very much, so as to get rid of the image of strong women and weak men eating soft rice. With a flattering smile on his face, he said, "Mr. Cooper, I debuted in 1993 and have participated in many productions, including Warner's, 20th Century Fox, and Universal, including Bringing Lang into the House, Vampire Queen, Step-by-Step Crisis, etc. I have a lot of acting experience and can be qualified for various roles as long as—" Wait. Before he could finish speaking, Eric interrupted the other party. "I have the impression that Vampire Queen is last year's movie." "Yes. I have the impression that this film made Warner lose a lot of money." "Well, the box office wasn't very good, but the DVD sold well, and it didn't lose much." Stuart Townsend did his best to make amends. Tobey Maguire said, "I also watched that movie. In fact, the fact that the box office did not sell well was because the plot was too old-fashioned, but Stuart contributed excellent acting skills." Eric, through this play, Stuart has risen in popularity among young women. At least he has lived up to any of the films. Eric nodded slightly. "Stuart, you have a good appearance. I don't really have a suitable role in my hands, but you have to test your acting skills." Stuart Townsend's eyes lit up in an instant. Pie really fell from the sky. It seems that his feelings are wrong. The other party is really a good person. "No problem, Mr. Cooper. I can audition tomorrow." "No tomorrow, I think it's now." "Is it here now?" "That's right. MGM intends to make a movie similar to Tarzan of the Apes, and the male protagonist is a man who has been abandoned in the forest and raised by animals. He should behave like an animal, imitate animals, you have learned." "Yes, every school teaches that, and I certainly do." Eric motioned for a few people to get out of the way. "Come on, imitate it and let me show your acting skills." Stuart Townsend hesitated, and in front of everyone, he felt a little embarrassed to do so. "But in my heart, I desperately want to get the role, which is the leading actor in a blockbuster, and if I don't follow Eric's requirements, I'm afraid I won't even be qualified to audition." I gritted my teeth in my heart. Anyway, it was a party, and it was supposed to be a time to relax and be lively, so it was okay to let go. Thinking of this, he no longer hesitated, and the animation and movie of Tarzan of the Apes came to mind, and he immediately crouched down and began to imitate the gorilla. You. Ah. A crowd gathered him in the center, watching curiously as Stuart Townsend did what he was doing strangely. Ha 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 ha. Suddenly, I don't know who started laughing, and everyone couldn't help but laugh. And then, Stuart. A banana was thrown from behind and hit him right on the head, and there was another burst of laughter. Surrounded by laughter, Stuart Townsend suddenly felt very humiliated, and he was simply the number one fool in the sky. Damn, what the hell am I doing? Tonight is my girlfriend's birthday party. I'm fucking fucked. I'm fucked by this damn Eric Cooper. Coming to his senses, Stuart Townsend began to roar inwardly, his head hot and his face red to the base of his ears. He hurriedly stood up and pushed through the crowd to leave. At this time, Theron's voice was heard nearby. What are you doing? Why are you in a circle? Is there something funny going on? The group got out of the way, and Eric walked over to Stuart Townsend and patted him on the shoulder. Your little boyfriend, who just made everyone laugh with his superb acting skills, is so funny. Theron smiled and looked at her boyfriend. Really? No wonder it's so lively. The corners of Stuart Townder's mouth twitched, but he couldn't smile at all, and he opened his mouth and was embarrassed to explain. After playing the other party, Eric couldn't go too far and pulled Theron to look at where Sergei was. Theron nodded and followed him to a corner. Behind the two of them, Stuart Townsend suddenly felt a breath of air condense in his chest. At this moment, he had the illusion that he had become a passerby, and this Eric Cooper and Theron were a couple. I'm sorry, Theron, but just now Stuart was actually auditioning. MGM has a new project, and I think he's a good fit for the actor. A character like Tarzan, so he imitated a gorilla, which made everyone laugh. I don't think I'm happy with Stuart's expression. It's because I didn't think it through. Can you apologize to him for me in private? Hearing this, Theron immediately looked at Eric gratefully. Thank you, it's actually good that you can come, and you are even willing to let Stuart be the leading actor. You are really a good person. Don't worry, he won't care as an actor. That's what it should do. Eric snorted. It's good that you can understand. In fact, it's all for your face, who makes me like you. Theron didn't respond, just smiled a little shyly. She was very entangled in her heart. On the one hand, she felt that betraying her boyfriend was immoral. After all, the two just quarreled, and no big conflict broke out. On the other hand, she is obsessed with Eric's friendship, and the sweet taste makes her unable to extricate herself, even though she knows that she is sorry for Stuart. But she still couldn't break off with Eric, but fell deeper and deeper, sometimes feeling that if the two could have known each other earlier, there would be nothing to do with Stuart. Unaware of Theron's complex mental activity, Eric pointed at Sergei and asked, "How was he talking to Kate Winslet?" "Very well. Your friend was nervous at first, but quickly got into the groove. Winslet has a good personality. She is the kind who plays very openly, and if it suits her taste, she will not refuse." Does Winslet have a boyfriend now?" "I don't know, but she's been divorced for a long time, and maybe there is. I haven't paid much attention to it." "It doesn't matter if there is. Sergei also has a wife anyway, but he has been separated for many years, and he is a middle-aged man who urgently needs emotions to fill his heart. It's a little sad to come out in middle age to find love." "Yes, I hope we don't wait until middle age to find love. Isn't it better to cherish the moment?" Theron glanced at Eric, naturally understanding what he meant. Surrounded by people, a little worried that Eric would make another drastic move, Theron turned and walked over to the sisters. Time passed in a hurry, and soon it was 11 o'clock in the evening, and the party was about the same, and everyone began to say goodbye one after another. Theron walked out of the villa to see everyone off. Suddenly, there was a thud, and then the sky was dyed in color. Countless fireworks exploded in midair, and the brilliant colors reflected the entire Beverly Hills in colorful shapes. The fireworks formed a pattern, and finally turned into the word happy birthday. OMG. Whoever set off the fireworks, it's so beautiful. So creative. If someone does it for me, I'm going to fall in love with him. Stuart, did you do that? Stuart Townsend was embarrassed and speechless, then stole a glance at Eric. At the same time, Theron also secretly looked at Eric, and Eric smiled at her, and everything was silent. Wrap up the whole mountain to spend a lot of money. This fireworks show, hundreds of thousands of dollars will be scattered. But seeing Theron's dripping eyes was worth it. On the other hand, Stuart Townsend felt that the fire in his heart was burning more and more, and he felt that his head had turned into a green grassland. His fists were clenched, and he was already in a state of being about to explode. Beverly Hills. Seeing off friends and guests, Theron and Stuart Townsend began to pick up the pieces. Remembering Eric's instructions, she spoke. Stuart, tonight's incident made you imitate a gorilla. Eric noticed that you didn't seem very happy, and he asked me to say sorry to you. Fortunately, at the mention of this incident, the anger that Stuart Townsend had suppressed all night instantly ignited. He stared at his girlfriend with wide eyes. So why did you apologize for him? Why didn't he say sorry himself? Theron was looking down to clean up, and before noticing that he was already angry, he explained, "There are so many people at the scene. He is the owner of MGM. You know what that means. How could he say sorry in public? People like them are very face-conscious." Yes, Eric Cooper values his face. So my face doesn't matter, right? My dignity should be trampled on the ground, right? Tell me, did Eric Cooper ask you to apologize, or did you pretend to be kind and decide for yourself? Are you helping him explain? Sensing that her boyfriend's tone of voice was a little rushing, Theron raised his head. What's wrong with you, Stuart? Why do you look angry? Of course Eric asked me. He noticed how you were feeling, so he wanted to apologize. And his starting point is good. The actor of a big production, no matter how many people ask for it, this kind of opportunity may not be encountered a few times in a lifetime. And it's just an audition. Isn't that what an actor should do? Besides, no one laughs at you. Everyone else just treats it as a game. You're too sensitive, Stuart, and while self-esteem is important, I don't think this thing has anything to do with it. The main reason for the disagreement is that the two have completely different feelings. Stuart Townsend was first upset by Eric's somewhat intimate behavior with his girlfriend. Then he was called as a waiter, and Eric deliberately ignored him to embarrass him, and there were many provocative teasing between his words, and some looked down on him. These actions had already made Stuart Townsend very uncomfortable until that hilarious audition he suddenly realized that he was being played for a fool. How can there be a large audition? Won't it be disturbed? Don't the director and producer need to be present? It all didn't make sense, and the more he thought about it, the more he thought it was a joke. What's more, women have been strong and men weak for a long time, and his career has not improved, and the criticism from the media and Theron fans has long suppressed him. This kind of repression for a long time translates into low self-esteem, and the more inferior the self-esteem, the more self-esteem bursts. On the other hand, Theron has a special relationship with Eric, and Eric took the initiative to apologize and said that he was willing to let the other party be the actor for the sake of his own face. How can this kind of behavior be a bad person? Obviously a very good person. Besides, what is his identity, and what is your identity? Eric is willing to deign to apologize to you. What else do you want? Although this operation did make a little tea, Theron is now a fan of the authorities, and he has long been hooked by Eric, and he is not aware of this. And seeing that his girlfriend was still talking to each other, Stuart's anger was even more surging. He walked up to Theron in a few steps and yelled, "What's the matter with you? You're my girlfriend? Why are you talking to that guy?" "I didn't speak for him, I just conveyed his apology to you. You've always been sensitive lately. Calm down, Stuart." Theron hastened to explain. "Okay, tell me, You two are always hiding in the corner and whispering. What the hell are you doing? They're inside. So you mind this? Eric brought a friend over tonight, and this person has a lot of admiration for Kate Winslet. So, he wanted me to help, so I invited Winslet. Do you want me to get the word out about it? That's all. Stuart Townsend was clearly not convinced. That's right, that's all. Come on, Theron. Do you think you can fool my eyes? I'm not stupid. I can feel that your heart is moving away from me. What prompted you to change? It's the witch. It's been around since you took over the film. Eric Cooper is an investor, and everything is clear. His willingness to invest is that he has a crush on you, and you didn't resist the temptation to hit the Oscars and listen to what that guy had to say to the media. I didn't do this fireworks show. I also asked your family and some friends, and no one admitted. So the question is, who took the whole mountain to celebrate your birthday? Such a big deal. I'm afraid it will make entertainment headlines tomorrow. MGM tycoon in order to make you laugh and charter Beverly Hills to set off fireworks. It's so romantic, ha ha ha. Stuart Townsend roared like a machine cannon, and his face turned hideous. Listening to his angry outcry, Theron suddenly felt a little regretful. Maybe he was really wrong. He was really lost. He shouldn't have accepted Eric's invitation to dinner in the first place, and he wouldn't have fallen out with his boyfriend to the point where he is today. She whispered, Stuart, calm down. I'm sorry for ignoring your feelings during this time. I'm really sorry. I'll never meet with Eric Cooper in private again. Is that okay? The two looked at each other for a while, and Stuart Townsend gasped, No. If you really want to live well with me, let's move to Owen. This villa can be kept or sold. The Inception show was refused, and I knew Eric Cooper was definitely the director, and you were going to be together for at least 2 months, and I couldn't allow that to happen. There's also the play The Devil. You can continue to participate in the follow-up promotion, but if Eric Cooper will also participate, then I want you to refuse to attend. The more he spoke, the tighter Theron's brow furrowed. Stuart, what do you think of me? Are you a vassal? I signed a contract, do you understand? What do you think of my business? Or, do you want to completely turn me into a little woman next to you so that you can be taller? I know the media is making you uncomfortable, but I'm already accommodating you. You should be accommodating to me. And do you know that if you break the contract and pay a lot of money, what will my peers think of me? Will anyone still ask me to make a film? Becoming more and more uncomfortable by Theron's rhetorical question, Stuart Townsend suddenly picked up a stack of plates and slammed them on the ground. Whoa! Shattered ceramics splattered all over the floor, and Theron screamed in terror and backed away. Enough, is it for money? Because I don't have money, my career is not as good as yours, so you think I'm not worthy of you. Looking at her boyfriend's hysterical appearance, Theron suddenly felt a little aggrieved. Stuart, how can you see me like that? Do you see me as a vain woman? If so, would I have chosen to be with you in the first place? Do you think there are no other men around me chasing me? I've not even worn high heels when I've been with you for a year. What do you want me to do? But Stuart Townsend couldn't hear what she was saying, and instead seized on the language loophole and yelled, Wait! Shut up for me. You just said there's another man chasing you, Eric Cooper. That's the guy, right? How long have you been hooking up behind my back? How many times have you been to a hotel?
I'm sorry.
I forgot that I didn't need a hotel at all. Maybe on set. Didn't he go to the director's guest role? Have you been played by him? As he roared, the man pounced on Theron's shoulders and shook wildly, his eyes bloodshot like a beast. Tell me. Tell me. Ah, it was a scene she would never forget, repeated in her childhood, until her mother pulled the trigger.
Bang!
Just then, a gunshot brought Stuart Townsend to a standstill. Stop. Stay away from her. Hunta, the housemaid, pointed a gun at Stuart Townsend and hid when she found the two arguing. Although she has been serving Theron for almost a decade, this kind of scene is not something she should be involved in as a servant after all. But it soon became clear that something was wrong, and the quarrel had turned into domestic violence. As a woman, she knew she had to make a move. Facing the muzzle of the black hole, Stuart Townsend raised his hand in fright. "Hunter, don't shoot. I'm just too excited." Saying that, he wanted to go to La Serran, who subconsciously dodged and fled behind Hunter. "Get out of here."
Theron, I'm just excited.
"She told you to get out. Don't you understand?" said Hunter viciously with a gun. All right, I'll leave until we've all calmed down." Seeing the man leaving, Hunter turned off the insurance and comforted, "Poor boy, although I shouldn't say it, it seems that he is not suitable for you." Theron sat on the ground in dismay, his hands covering his face. After a while, he said softly, "Hunter, you go home first. I want to be quiet for a while." "Okay, this thing for you, protect yourself." Beverly Hills, Cooper's house. Eric hummed as he scribbled words on the paper. Together, these words turn into pop songs. Now that he has set up a record company with Maiku, he can't be a hands-off shopkeeper, so he quickly collects the melodies in his mind and writes the hits in his memory. As a post-90s generation, what impressed him the most was the 10 years after the millennium, which is 12 or 13 years. During this time, China's pop music reached its peak, and a large number of excellent singers emerged. Jay Chou, Su Song, Hu Yanbin, William Shaohan, Wang Xinling, Eason Chan, etc., have created many popular songs. It's a pity that after the peak, there is an infinite fall, and after 20 years, the crotch has been pulled to the point of no return. And it was also during this period that English songs poured into the country in large numbers, as if the door of the country had suddenly opened. Almost every month or two, there will be a golden song that spreads through the streets. Later, a large reason why there was less is because the era of music payment has arrived, and many domestic platforms can no longer prostitute for nothing. And the one who opened this era is, of course, the hottest female singer more than 10 years later, and the well-deserved global diva Taylor Swift. In those days, thanks to hair salons, ice rinks, QQ speeds, dance troupes, and other channels, too many young people could sing a few words or sing a full version of the melody lyrics on KTV. For example, Beckham's exclusive music, "Because of You" by Kelly Clarkson. There is also Kelly Clarkson's stronger, William S. masterpiece, Counterwar. Many people question that it is plagiarism. The inspirational divine comedy, Be What You Want to Be, which Eric often overhears from the Norwegian ethereal divine comedy, Burning. Avril's explosive song, Innocence, also belongs to Avril, and if you are not honest, do not disturb the appearance of the divine comedy girlfriend. When Eric entered the society, he often heard "yes" after going to a nightclub. Lonely, from Ghana, the representative song, Free Loop, for the reunion of lovers. The lovers are going to get married after they reunite, so they naturally have to listen to Sugar by Magic Red. There are those that symbolize the reunion of lovers, and of course, there is also Just One Last Dance, which depicts a heartbreaking breakup. Regret and apologize after the breakup, and then sing Apologize. After the apology, everyone should lean on each other's shoulders and cry, and then sing a duet, Cry on My Shoulder, between men and women. Of course, we can't forget Lady Gaga's representative divine comedy, Poker Face, and the song Trouble is a Friend. There is also See You Again, that accompanied the Fast and Furious, that became popular all over the world, or the movie was stained with the light of the song, commemorating Paul Walker. I don't know if I don't sing. Eric always thought that he didn't have much stock in his head. But when I actually sang it, I found that those memories seemed to be activated, and it turned out that I could sing so many classic divine comedies. The ability to sing here doesn't mean that the word is good. He can 100% remember the climax, but he still can't remember the other parts. But it doesn't matter. because the melody itself remembers it very well, and only the lyrics need to be added. Then, it is just to keep trying to change words and find the rhyme foot to rhyme, which is actually a bit similar to the ancient Chinese poems. It's a big deal to find a professional modification, and if you want to take it out, you can explode. Looking at the paper that was completed by himself, Eric patted his head and laughed. The genius is actually me. Looking at the time, it was already past 12 o'clock in the middle of the night, and I thought about finding another song and going to sleep, but the phone screen suddenly lit up. Suzu. Seeing that it was Theron's call, Eric didn't hesitate to connect. Theron, why are you calling at this time? In the face of inquiry, the other side of the phone was indeed silent. Theron, are you all right? Why don't you speak? After waiting for a while, there was still no sound, only the sound of staccato breathing. Eric was a little strange and a little worried. He called in the middle of the night and didn't speak. Something must have happened. Thinking of this, he didn't delay any longer, walked downstairs and began to change clothes. Theron, you wait a minute, I'll be right over. This time Theron finally had an echo, a soft, word. Beverly Hills wasn't big, and Eric arrived at his destination 10 minutes after the car started. I wanted to knock on the door, but as soon as my hand touched, the door opened on its own. Eric went inside, only to notice that it was pitch black and the lights were not turned on. The current mobile phone has not yet developed the flashlight function, and Eric does not know where the light switch is. But the dark environment makes him a little worried, and hurriedly walks inside. As a result, I listened to the squeaking and grinding sounds, and I obviously stepped on something hard under my feet. Crouching down, Eric saw that it was pieces of plates. A bad premonition came to his mind, and he hurriedly stood up to call someone, when he heard a low sob. And Eric's eyes gradually adjusted to the darkness, and through the dim moonlight, he vaguely saw a figure sitting in the darkness at the corner of the stairs. Theron, are you there? Eric asked, approaching and walked up the stairs to get closer, finally getting a better look. I saw a lonely woman huddled in a corner, her back against the wall, her hands on her legs, her head buried between her legs. Her blonde hair hung down, completely obscuring her face. Looking at Theron's appearance, although Eric didn't know what was happening, he was sure that she must be very sad at the moment. Without saying anything, he also sat down gently against the wall and just quietly accompanied each other. In the darkness, only the breathing of both sides could be heard. After some time, Eric suddenly felt a weight on his body, and Theron was already snuggled up to his shoulder. Reaching out to hold the other party in her arms, Theron also hugged him. This was the first time she took the initiative to hug Eric. Is it better? What the hell is going on? Theron shook his head slightly. It's not important. I'm a little tired. Can you carry me to the bedroom? Of course. It didn't take much effort for Eric to pick up her princess, and not long after the filming of The Witch was finished, Theron had already lost weight. With the previous experience, Eric carried Theron to the bedroom and gently lowered her to the bed. Theron's eyes looked at Eric like jewels, even in the dark. Come up, lie down with me for a while. I'm a little scared. Scared? Didn't Stuart Townsend do something? The ground is full of debris. Did he bully you? Eric, it doesn't matter what I said. I don't want to mention another stranger. He's nothing to me right now. With that, Theron grabbed Eric's hand and pulled him to the bed, and the two lay down together. Eric hugging me, feeling so sleepy. Well, good night then. After a kiss on Theron's forehead, Eric held her tightly in his arms, and the two slept in harmony. When I opened my eyes again, Ty Leon was already drying his ass. Yawned and looked down at Theron, who hadn't woken up yet. Eric smiled first, and he found that he seemed to have taken down Theron in a daze, of course, mainly through months of hard work and foreshadowing. Then he frowned again. Although he was already sleeping in the same bed, he was still wearing clothes, How could he be considered to have taken it? Body and soul, I want them all. Stuart Townsend suddenly came to mind. Damn. I don't know what's going on, but this kid must have done it. Theoretically, I should thank you for being stupid and letting Theron see you for who you really are and make the right choice. But emotionally speaking, if the woman who moved Lao Tzu doesn't teach you a lesson, how will she mix it up in the future? Between thoughts, Theron snorted softly and then opened his eyes, and there was a cute sex appeal in his gaze. Eric, have you been awake for a long time? Well, it's been a while. And what are you doing? Nothing, look at you. See what I'm doing? Because you're good-looking. Theron laughed unconsciously. Eric, it's a good feeling to wake up and see you and hear your voice. Are you inviting me to stay? Said Eric, who smoothed her messy hair. No, it's too messy here. I'm going to clean it up, otherwise it's not comfortable. Hearing this, Eric's heart moved. If you feel uncomfortable, how about I take you to a good place? Now, but I want to take a shower first, and you smell that I stink, and it feels very uncomfortable. You bear with me a little, and it's not too late for us to wash when we get to the place. What? Wait, where the hell are you going to take me? Beach, bathhouse, water park. Eric rolled out of bed and jerked her up. Theron screamed and could only wrap his arms around his neck to ensure his safety, but there was no need for it because Eric was clutching her hips so tightly that he couldn't fall down. Embraced in Eric's arms, Theron suddenly felt a pang of peace of mind. Is this what it feels like to be dependent? It can make me not have to be a little woman, so that I don't have to try to please others, so that I can wear my favorite clothes and shoes. Why should I love so humbly? Am I a fool? Coming to the car, Theron thought a lot about the short distance, and suddenly she looked at the handsome and considerate man in the driver's seat. Eric, why didn't I meet you sooner? Eric smiled. It's not too late, we're leaving. The car started and soon came to the boulevard, where the two men entered an apartment disguised themselves. Eric bought 3 houses some time ago, one of which has been given to Nico, and the second set is given to Theron so that the two can date in the future. Click. Open the door to enter. This place has long been renovated and furnished into a warm little home. Eric, is this your house? No, it's our house. As he spoke, Eric took out a key from the drawer, broke Theron's hand, and solemnly placed it in his palm. This time, without hesitation or resistance, Theron decisively put the key in his bag. So, am I the mistress here from now on? Yes, now I'm going to take its mistress to the bath. Now that the relationship has been confirmed, Theron is no longer reserved, and the two have been honest with each other. The shower turned on and the warm water sprinkled on the body, adding to the fire of the already warm emotions. In Eric's mind, if there is a beauty ranking, Theron definitely has the qualifications to become the #1 in the world. Her face is like God's graduation work, flawless from every angle. Even the most picky person has to admit that her beauty is breathtaking, like the oldest wine, which makes people linger and get drunk. And looking at the beauty he had been looking for a long time, the feeling of conquest instantly filled Eric's heart. The trumpet of the charge has been sounded. The cavalry company charged, and the Italian artillery fired wildly. The waves in the water cube are dotted, and the bird's nest is carved and carved. Gently and slowly twist and wipe the repick, at the beginning of the neon dress after the 6. The big strings are noisy like a torrential rain, and the small strings are like whispers. Noisy and staggered, big beads and small beads fall on the jade plate. The bottom of the flower is slippery, and it is difficult to go under the drift ice of the secluded spring. The silver bottle burst through the water slurry, and the iron rider stood out with the sound of knives and guns. Don't have gloom and hatred. Silence is better than sound at this time. The fierce battle lasted for nearly 2 hours, and then the clouds and rain stopped. Both of them collapsed to the ground from exhaustion, leaving only the rushing water to fill the surroundings. It is said that Gentle Township is a hero's mound, which is not false at all. At night, that is, Eric saw that she was really not good, so he gave up Ravage. This state lasted for 3 days, and the two seemed to live as husband and wife. Eat at home, catch up on dramas, play games, and then ask for love nonstop. During this period, I called Sergey, a middle-aged man who lacked love, and the other party's voice sounded high-spirited. Sergey, where did you go that night? At first I could still see you, and then suddenly I found that you were gone and Kate Winslet. Sergey smiled. We left before 10 o'clock and then went for a walk on the beach in Santa Monica to see the scenery, to talk about life. What about after the walk? After that? I'll send her home. Even though the two were across the phone, Eric couldn't help but show a puzzled expression. Dude, don't tell me you are really talking about life. Talking about life. A determined voice came from the other side. That's right, that's it, young man. I know what's going on in your head, but sex is already secondary to me. Are there still fewer women I've played with? White-skinned, yellow-skinned, dark-skinned, variegated skin, tall, petite, sexy, cute. There are many of them who are more beautiful and tasteful than Kate. But I'm tired of pure sex, and it's the mental fit that counts. Through a night of communication, Kate and I both got to know each other better, and we found a common hobby and direction that was far more comfortable than a bed exercise. You may not understand what I'm saying right now, but with your status and resources, especially in Hollywood, surrounded by all kinds of beautiful women and faced with so many temptations and seductions, I'm sure one day you'll understand. You must have been through a lot of battles at that time, and you will naturally understand my state of mind when the time comes. Listening to him crackle and talk a lot, Eric's only thought was, you're a fucking waste of resources. I finally created the opportunity for you. Don't you look at yourself as a person with a wife, and people will be close to you when they know about it? But you can't say that. All right, man, it's your choice. That's all I can do anyway. Eric, my brother, I keep your help in my heart, and I will do my best if I am needed in the future. Hanging up the phone, Theron lay on his chest and drew circles on his chest, and of course the call was heard. You bad guy, look at your friends. The most important thing is the mental fit. It's really good. Eric laughed and said, Baby, you have to look at things dialectically. He also said that he had played with all kinds of women, so it can be inferred that he was tired of playing, or that he couldn't do it below, so he could only choose spiritual harmony. Theron climbed up and straddled him like a water snake and asked condescendingly, What about you? Sergey is only in the toy business, and you are a Hollywood tycoon. Let me think about it. How many women have had an affair with you, and how many are there hidden in the shadows? I'm not. I don't. Don't talk nonsense. Eric decisively denied the triple. Scandals are all used to hype. Don't you know the virtue of those gossip tabloids? Baby, I only have you in my heart. You should feel my love. Ah, happy times are always short-lived, and 3 days of happy life were lived. Finally, at Theron's insistence, the two walked out of the apartment and returned to work. The reason she gave was that your career was important. You were a man, or the helmsman of such a large company, and you had a heavy burden on your body. If I delay something important, it will be more than worth the loss, and I will be hated to death. But whether he really wants to return to work or an excuse to escape from Eric's clutches, only Theron himself knows. Anyway, when she left, her walking posture changed. The ground was plowed by oxen. The crew of House of Cards continued to throw it to Andrea as usual, comforting her to support her for a few more days, and she would return. On the side of May Records, there is a team of my buckle who is presiding over the work and is dealing with matters related to the establishment of the company. After the two communicated, they planned to set up the company in Los Angeles, and the specific plan was to put it in Burbank. This is the entertainment center of the United States, and there are not only a large number of film and television companies, but also a lot of record companies. And it's very close to MGM, so it's easy to communicate. What really makes Eric pay attention to two things now? One is the competition between Facebook and MySpace, and the other is communication with Marvel. It's been more than half a month since MySpace was launched, and thanks to Fox's all-out publicity, the momentum has been very big. The brainwashing offensive is like brain platinum. As long as the audience of Fox hears the word join, they can immediately think of MySpace. Although there are many people who complain, it is as annoying as spam calls, but the traffic that can be attracted is real. However, attracting traffic is only the basics, and the key is how to retain users. As a social app similar to Facebook, MySpace is a catch-up and has to make a trick, and the key cards it plays are personalization and sidekicks. Since its launch, one of its strategies has been to attract a large number of DJs, musicians, and spiritual guys and spiritual girls from major nightclubs and bars. These musicians have some fans of their own. Even if they are not big singers, they can bring a lot of users if they accumulate a lot of sand and become a tower. And even more attractive than them are those spiritual little sisters. The United States is a country that is divided in many ways, and sex is one of them. In the film and television works exported to the outside world, American girls are often not open. They can play and do it casually, and it is the norm to break melons at the age of 14 or 15. It makes sense, but not absolutely, because in addition to being extremely open, there are many states here that are extremely conservative, and the degree of conservatism is far greater than that of China. Compare IN states such as Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Georgia, and other states, where the church is powerful and every household believes in God. Sex seems to them to be a beast of the flood, like the theory of evolution. Even 20 years later, LGBT has swept the Western world, but in conservative states like Alabama, you will never see pro-LGBT marches, because fanatics will really dare to shoot you directly. The people recruited by MySpace this time are all in California, New York, and other extremely open states. According to the survey, it is the most rampant place in the United States to split legs, cheat, and step on multiple boats. So the spiritual little girls are open one by one, and the photos on the homepage, scratching their heads and posing, are all reserved, and many of them have a piece of cloth left, which is almost dewy. This kind of trick is something that a normal man can't resist, let alone those young men with strong blood. Ask yourself, did you ever want to make an appointment with Momo back then? The reason is the same, so vulgar, but it is very helpful for drainage. Eric also signed up for an account test and just smiled disdainfully when he saw this situation. Relying on the sidelines may be able to maintain the popularity for a while, but it will damage the foundation of the network ecology. If you don't engage in pornography, you won't have attention, you won't be able to attract fans, and it will gradually evolve into an arms race on a larger scale. But neither society nor the law will allow for the emergence of an all-age yellow base. It's still a short time, and public opinion and parents haven't reacted yet. When MySpace is a little bigger and more unscrupulous, parents suddenly find that their underage children are browsing bad information. How do you think they will react? When the time comes, Eric can use public opinion to add fuel to the fire and make things bigger. When pressure is put on MySpace, it's impossible not to make corrections. And at that time, its important label was to make yellow, and everyone came for this. You suddenly said that I won't do it. Users who still want to play with you, wouldn't it be more fragrant for me to go to Facebook? In addition to the edge ball, another feature of MySpace is the personalization of the main business settings. Users can change the color, background, decoration, text content, and other aspects of their homepage. This function is somewhat similar to the QQ space of later generations, which can make your homepage bells and whistles and blind other people's dogs at a glance. When non-mainstream culture was popular, many people must have had this experience and feeling. Eric tried it and thought it was good, so He wanted to arrange for Fitz to do something similar. But Fitz told him it was best not to do it because it looked gorgeous, but it came at a high price. Boss, our team has conducted a step-by-step test of MySpace's personalization function, which is to constantly decorate the personal homepage to be more prosperous and complex. If it's a 1, then it looks beautiful. And when the level of ornificence goes up to 10, it looks prettier. But when the flashiness level rises to 20, the side effects start to appear, and the opening and refreshing speed of the homepage starts to lag. As that number continues to rise, so does the level of stuttering until it takes 4 or 5 minutes to open a homepage. And after clicking on it, there will be continued lag, such as comments being posted, messages cannot be synchronized, etc. Boss, our company's software and hardware configuration is already the most advanced on the market, and there will still be problems, and the experience of those ordinary users can be imagined. It may be nice now, but in just 2 or 3 months, the disadvantages will definitely show. After listening to Fitz, Eric couldn't help but think of Penguin Space again, and then it was indeed stuttering. A page can't be opened in a few minutes. Who is still interested in continuing? You have a point. What is your suggestion? Boss, I think we just need to do our job and don't care about MySpace's provocations at all. It has chosen a path of quick success. It doesn't deserve to compete with Facebook at all, and it will soon play itself to death. According to what I've got, MySpace's joint rollout within major companies and organizations isn't going well, and the results are pretty much the same as you predicted. And we are doing very well in the promotion of major secondary schools, and the number of new secondary school users has reached 3 million, and most of them are active. Eric thought for a moment and said, since MySpace is in such a hurry to catch up with us, let's give it some momentum. Facebook hasn't released data since it was launched, so in the next few days, you should prepare to release the data by 20%. Boss, 20% is not too conservative or 50% higher. There is no motivation without pressure. Wouldn't 50% be too exaggerated? Can others believe it? Fitz laughed and said, we don't care if people believe it or not, but even if there is only a 1% chance that it is true, MySpace doesn't dare to disbelieve it. As long as it believes, it will inevitably go more extreme on the road of rubbing, and the hourglass of death will only flow faster and faster. Okay, so be it. Facebook is temporarily stable, and Eric's focus has become Marvel. Since he planned to attack Marvel some time ago, Eric has been investigating and contacting relevant personnel. According to the information in hand, Marvel's largest shareholder is Beechcraft Toys, accounting for 20% of the shares. However, Beechcraft Toys is not directly involved in the operation, but more as an investment method. But it's not right to say that it doesn't matter at all, because Marvel's 2 largest individual shareholders at the moment are Isaac Perlmutter and Avi Arad. The former holds a 17% stake in Marvel, while the latter holds a 10% stake. According to Marvel's current market capitalization, the combined shares of the two can be worth about $320 million. And the two of them are also shareholders of Beechcraft Toys, but they don't account for as much as Marvel. So if you want to win Marvel, there are now 2 paths in front of Eric. The first option is to negotiate directly with Beechcraft Toys to see if it can buy the 20% stake, which is now valued at $240 million. MGM's current liquidity is sufficient. Even a premium of $100 million is sufficient. But the process can be very long, with board meetings and nonstop discussions and negotiations. The second way is to go to Isaac Perlmutter and Avi Arad to find a way to do their jobs and buy shares to become the largest shareholder of Marvel. Then, when MGM went public, the funds were abundant and then bought back the equity from Beechcraft Toys. According to Eric's plan, MGM's re-release was scheduled after the release of Transformers. Once relisted, it is bound to secure billions of dollars in financing. At that time, even if the money owed to Kerkorian and the bank is repaid, it will be completely enough to buy Marvel. What's more, Lao Tzu even bought Beechcraft toys together. If a premium of 100 million is not enough, I will have a premium of 200 million, and if 2 is not enough, I will have more, and I will smash you out. Who will get along with money? Xing. How is the arrangement on Marvel's side? Boss, Isaac Perlmutter and Avi Arad will come to Los Angeles in 4 days to meet in the company. With a knife 4 days later, in addition to returning to the crew of House of Cards to film, Eric took turns rolling with the sisters Nico, Theron, and Olsen. Rolling 3 times in 4 days, for several hours at a time, the donkey would kneel down and foam at the mouth when it came. To deal with 4 women, such a high-intensity work, even with the support of health wine and green juice, still made him feel tired. But there's no way. I've been dealing with the matter of my buckle some time ago. Some ignored a few girls. The fields lack irrigation, and the farmer himself must plow the land and loosen the soil. Fortunately, Godot hasn't come back yet. Otherwise, it would be really a continuous spin, and he wouldn't have had a day off. The North American box office of Get Out has been released in the 2nd week, although it has fallen, but the decline is smaller than expected, about 34%. The Black Buddies are still very supportive, and the topic of racial discrimination is highly discussed in society. Under the fermentation of word of mouth, even many white people walked into the cinema to find out. In the end, the box office was reported to be $34 million, continuing to lead the schedule and winning the 2nd weekly box office title. In 2nd place is still Pirates of the Caribbean. The tenacity of the Black Pearl has not been exhausted, and it continues to cut more than $17 million at the box office. It can be seen from this that the box office of a really good word-of-mouth production has both explosive and staying power. And Get Out, Chainsaw, Sharknado, and other horror alternative movies generally only have explosive power, and the staying power is relatively lacking, and the box office potential will be exhausted in a month or more. As for Tobey Maguire's Pentium Age, with a box office of less than $10 million, no one cares about it anymore. At the MGM building, Chun Xing brings Isaac Perlmutter and Avi Arad into the office. Eric stood up and shook hands with the two in greeting. The 2 men gave Eric very different feelings. Isaac Perlmutter wore a crisp brown suit, shiny black leather shoes, and meticulously combed hair. The man's face had a sharp and sinister look, and Eric could detect the cunning in his eyes. In short, he was dressed as a very authentic businessman. Avi Arad, on the other hand, had a beard long enough for a finger on his chin. Wearing a sports half-sleeve, he also has casual shoes on his feet, and the shoes are also printed with the pattern of Captain America, which looks less like a company executive and more like an old otaku. Hello, Mr. Cooper. It's an honor to know you. Hello, Mr. Cooper. Even the way of saying hello gives a completely different feeling. The 3 of them sat down, said some nonsense to each other about long admiring, and then got to the point. Isaac Perlmutter said, Mr. Cooper, we must know the intention of coming this time, mainly for Marvel LA's investment. Marvel is gaining momentum right now, and we've been on a rollback over the past 3 years. In recent years, both Spider-Man and Blade have had huge successes in film and television adaptations, and as an industry insider, you know best. So Marvel is ready to restart the film and television department, and we are interested in starting cooperation with big Hollywood companies to bring superheroes to the big screen. Now we are planning to develop Thor, Captain America, 2 well-known comic book characters who will be of interest to anyone who is a comic book lover. With that, Isaac Perlmutter took out an earnings report and handed it to Eric, which showed that it had indeed been profitable for 3 consecutive years. But this thing is okay for ordinary people, and Eric is not ignorant, and he has specially investigated the situation of Marvel in advance. Why is there no pressure in my heart to make profits for 3 consecutive years? That's because it's bottomed out. What can you do if you don't rebound? If you fall any further, It will be 18 layers of hell, and if you change a normal operator who doesn't mess around, you can make the company profitable. So there's no credibility to this thing. Eric briefly glanced at it and threw it aside, looking at the other party playfully. Mr. Perlmutter, the value of this thing is far inferior to the S&P 500 index. I don't think there is any need to look at it. Let's talk about your thoughts. What kind of cooperation does Marvel plan to take, and what reasons are you going to use to convince me to invest? Isaac Perlmutter was not embarrassed by Eric's words, and he continued with a normal face. The cooperation method we are considering is that Marvel will provide copyright and related comic book knowledge support and bear 50% of the cost of filming and publicity. MGM bears the other 50% of the cost of filming, and the filming is controlled by both of us. The box office proceeds of the movie are equally shared between the two of us, and the film and television rights are owned by Marvel, but the sequel shooting is still done by the two of us. Before Isaac Perlmutter could finish speaking, Eric was already sneering in his heart, embarrassed to roll his eyes and scold him because of his identity. What bullshit propose? According to this plan, Lao Tzu will not be a part-time job for you. If the copyright belongs to MGM, there is still talk about this matter, and the copyright still belongs to Marvel, then I am not a pure clown. After a few laughs, Eric said, Mr. Perlmutter, the condition should be put forward from the position where he should stand. Why are you making these demands, and where is your confidence? It's not 10 years ago. The environment has changed. I think you should recognize the reality. The era of comics has long since declined, and Marvel is not the market hegemon it once was. So my advice is to be pragmatic, otherwise this meeting can end early. Avi Arad hurriedly explained, Mr. Cooper, although the era of comics has passed, the era of superhero movies has just begun. Last summer's Spider-Man grossed $850 million worldwide, with Blade 1 taking $170 million and Blade 2 $150 million. X-Men 1 took $420 million at the box office, and this year's X-Men 2 also made $400 million at the box office. The prospect of superhero movies has been widely recognized by the market, and people still love superheroes. So the collaboration is beneficial to both parties. Thor and Captain America are no less famous than Spider-Man, and the movie will definitely get MGM well paid. $100 million, $200 million, even more than $300 million. You should really think about it. What about the Hulk? Is the Hulk less famous than Spider-Man? Asked Eric rhetorically. After a moment's hesitation, Avi Arad replied, Of course not. According to the questionnaire, if aliens attack the Earth, people think that the Hulk will be the first to jump out to protect everyone. So, how do you explain the Hulk fiasco? It was in June of this year. It was still the summer season, but this movie cost Universal tens of millions of dollars. And the regeneration heroes, the Punishers, the Dukes of Hell, and so on, none of which are profitable. Overall, the market prospects of superhero movies are not clear, and most of them still lose money, and they often invest more than 100 million yuan, which is too risky. Two gentlemen, I would like to ask, which one are you going to make, and what is the expected investment? Avi Arad was speechless when asked rhetorically, and Isaac Perlmutter replied, It's better to shoot Thor and Captain America together. Thor is a fantasy background, involving the 9 realms and the World Tree, which will use a lot of special effects, and is expected to invest $100 million. Although Captain America can save a lot of special effects, it belongs to the World War II background and will involve war scenes. Props, costumes, ensembles, sets, etc. will be a big expense, with an estimated investment of $120 million. Seeing Eric staring at him expressionlessly, Isaac Perlmutter suddenly felt a little weak and changed his words and said, Actually, it should be okay to invest less, and I think $100 million can be filmed. Finding that Eric's eyes were still very sharp, he changed his words and said, $80 million is filmed, and we can appropriately streamline some scenes. Avi Arad immediately became anxious. 80 million is not good. If the movie can't be made, it's better not to shoot. We can't ruin our reputation anymore. Isaac Perlmutter quietly smacked his leg underneath and motioned for Avi Arad not to speak. Let's fool the money in hand first and then talk about it. Why don't you invest more when you shoot it? And the reason is still hard to find. How did Cameron's Titanic come about? It's not the first time that you can ask for an investment of 200 million, and in the end, it's not that Paramount and Fox are forced to pay for it. You don't want to give money and you can't finish the shooting and the sunk cost doesn't matter. The two are also very helpless. The current Marvel is too poor, and they can take out up a maximum of $50 million in liquidity on the books. For this amount of money, it is impossible to make a superhero blockbuster. They don't want to sell the copyright or take it to the bank for a mortgage, so they can only go to the major film and television companies to see if any fools will be fooled. Eric is so young, he should be easier to deceive than the old foxes of other companies. Mr. Cooper, in fact, you can shoot one first. MGM only needs to invest $40 million, and soon you can get a return of hundreds of millions of dollars. The daydreaming attitude of the two. Eric is no longer going to talk about it. He directly interrupted the other party. Mr. Perlmutter, you stop for a moment. The lobbying will end here. I have not the slightest interest in your cooperation plan. But I also have a plan at hand. Would you like to hear it? The two were stunned for a moment, then nodded. As a businessman, we are all in the interest of money, but the development of Marvel has been very sluggish in recent years, so you have not made any money. Now that I see the improvement of superhero movies, I want to get a piece of the pie, but I don't have the funds, and I can't afford to take any risks. So I have to find someone else to work with, right? Isaac Perlmutter nodded slightly, while Avi Arad didn't move. If you want to make money and don't want to take risks, there is no such good deal in the world, so I have a piece of advice for you. Sell me the shares. I can buy them at a premium. You guys cash out, and each of you get a few $100 million back to Beechcraft Toys to continue to be executives. As for the hot potato of Marvel, it's okay to throw it to MGM. After all, you can't play it for a few years, which can only mean two things. One is that Marvel has long been unable to adapt to the market environment, and the other is that you simply have the ability to manage it well. Instead of continuing to make a big deal out of it, it's better to give it to me as soon as possible, and it's a good thing to get rid of this baggage, isn't it? As for the risk, MGM will take it alone, whether to be Spider-Man or Hulk. That's my business. Think about it, it's a reasonable suggestion. After Eric finished speaking, the two looked at each other. They are here to attract investment. Why did it suddenly become an acquisition? The script is wrong. But when you think about it, the proposal is still very tempting, especially since Eric said that he is willing to buy it at a premium. If you are willing to give more, it is not impossible to consider it. After a long silence, Eric was about to send off the guests, and Isaac Perlmutter suddenly said, Mr. Cooper, I want to ask a question. Is MGM planning to relist? That's for sure. What's wrong? Then I speculate that the time for the relisting will be after the release of Transformers, right? Eric also did not deny that MGM had submitted the relevant materials, and if you inquire within the relationship, you can find out. Almost, I have this plan. Mr. Cooper, then I also have an idea to swap my stake in Marvel with your stake in MGM. Eric was shocked. He just proposed to buy, and the other party came to replace. Sure enough, it was a businessman, and his sense of smell was really keen. Mr. Perlmutter, do you want to swap MGM's equity and cash out when it's time to go public? Yes, that's an idea, and I'm very bullish on the future of MGM. Mr. Cooper, since you became MGM, the lion seems to have come back to life, and every movie, every project, is making a profit. This rate of return and accuracy is simply terrifying, and I am confident that under your leadership, MGM will regain its glory of the last century and become the first of the 7 major film and television companies. So, if we do a share swap, I also plan to hold MGM shares for a long time and get a stable income. But when it comes to relisting, once the major institutions get involved, with my own strength, I'm afraid I won't even be able to eat 1% of the share. So it's also a good opportunity, and the only way I'm okay with it is a share swap. Eric looked at Avi Arad, who refused very decisively. I would never sell a stake in Marvel. I love comics. These superheroes are like my friends, my children. I can accept co-making a movie, but if you want me to sell my own children, it's absolutely impossible. After saying that, he got up and left directly, and walked out of the office without the slightest hesitation. Isaac Perlmutter reached out to grab him, but was thrown away by the other party, not at all of his companions. I'm sorry, Mr. Cooper. Avi is an old otaku, and he has the most affection for those comics and toys. But don't pay attention to him. I don't have that deep feelings for Marvel. Let's continue to talk about the equity swap. Eric took a sip of water and moistened his throat. Mr. Perlmutter, you personally only hold 17% of Marvel shares, even if it is replaced. I am not the largest shareholder of Marvel, no significance. So it's not that the replacement can't be discussed, but only if you get your own companions. I want shares of the two of you. Contact me when you're done.